So land-coated.
Imagine not being on a boat.
Italia has been one of the white whales of my life's voyage because of the sauce, but also because of other reasons. It's a place I've always wanted to go and needed to go, but felt compelled to do it in a certain special way, and also have a lot of sauce. My great-grandfather, Primo Fraternali, immigrated from Urbino in the early 20th century, and so venturing to Italy carries the weight of seeing this original nest of the Fraternalis, and the various sauces they both made and consumed. What better place to come with the newest Fraternali, Lauren, the best context you could imagine for such an essential experience. Italy showed us many things on this maiden voyage. A bird stole my last 2 Pro Packs of 120 film and flew away with them. The Hassi went gassy in Firenze. 30 rolls were exposed to all manner of sights, and also a giant seabird stole my film and flew away with it. Did you even hear that? Did you catch that? We'll recount it and much more on this extra saucy edition of In an Instant. Arrivederci!
Il tipo di fotografia che diventerà parte dell'essere umano. Premi un pulsante e ottieni l'immagine.
I woke up early to shoot sunrise. We had this insane view of the port of Manarola, part of the eastern Cinque Terre coastal towns. I shot a big Polaroid panorama of the scene, knowing this was one of our key overlooks on this town-hopping tour d'Italia, and I posted to my Instagram story about how beautiful this whole scene was, because that's what one does. I just finished the rolls inside of the Lomo LCA 120 and the panoramic Holga camera, so I started reloading those suckers and returned the exposed rolls to these boxes right here. The other rolls inside the boxes included exposures from Florence, our first stop, Pisa, and the Manarola sunset and sunrise, which I just photographed. It also contained all the unshot 120 film I had left for this trip. When I finished reloading the Holga pan, I went inside to put it on a table, and as I looked back toward the veranda, an enormous seagull descended onto the table out there, an incredibly dramatic image. My initial instinct was to raise the Holga pan up to my eye to photograph this wild scene, but before I could even lift the camera, the seagull gripped both boxes of 120 in one giant chomp and flew away. Lauren, in the bathroom, reports I started wailing and cursing. I mean, imagine seeing your film in the air, between a bird's beak. It was nuts. The seagull didn't travel with the Pro Packs very far, dropping them onto the roof adjacent to our flat. Our cherished memories imprinted on film were now physically out of reach, but within clear view. It's a situation you simply could not imagine. Why do we shoot film? Why do we do this to ourselves? And seagulls can just do this? Sadly, jumping between buildings would have required doing a Mission Impossible, and survival seemed less likely than pack film coming back. So we started throwing Italian chocolate chip cookies to provoke the bird to start nudging the boxes again. Oh my God. Okay. In my eyes, best case was the bird could knock the boxes down a few hundred feet below, and though it would have been a far drop, I think the rolls would survive the fall because they weigh so little. I don't know, this is desperation logic we're talking about here. We managed to get other birds interested in this rooftop, but this is the alpha right here, and he is scaring off any other would-be transporters of our film to at least street level or to our deck. After throwing our last cookie, we gave up on getting the bird to do more than randomly peck at the Ektar box occasionally, which it seemed mildly interested in. Lauren, taking command, managed to find the entrance to this adjacent domicile through the zigzagging grid of buildings. She went up the stairs and encountered a woman named Elma, who distractedly wrestled with a young puppy in the stairwell. She informed us that the owner of the top floor flat was in Milano, 224 kilometers away, and she didn't have their contact info. So we were basically at a loss. Screwed, SOL, fregato, no way to get over there without Tom Cruise's help. Save for a miracle, it was time to just leave the rolls baking on the shingles and go about our day. All we could really do was leave a note before we left, which I translated into Italian. We left our name and number, what had happened, little sob story, little crazy bird narrative, and just hoped the owner would randomly return within the next couple days. After venturing across the villages of Cinque Terre, the ludicrousness of the situation began to soothe the pain of film flying away. You kind of just have to shrug at that point. You can't let the bird win the mind game. This also had perpetuated a series of bad luck situations with medium format film on this trip, which had kicked off on our arrival in Florence. My cherished Hasselblad started jamming on the second day and had been benched ever since. All of our unshot medium format film was now gone, with the only fortune whatsoever in the situation being I had just reloaded the LCA 120 and Holgapan just before the other packs were lifted skyward. I parked those cameras with their final loaded 120 rolls for a sunset boat tour of Cinque Terre we had planned for sunset. May as well burn out a film with the cresting sun. Forcibly nonplussed and onto adventuring, we bopped through the 5 cities on foot and mostly ripped through 35mm on the Pentax 17, which rapidly became attached to my right hand. My Polaroid film didn't fly away either, so I comfortably shot more of that. Afterward, we returned to the flat to freshen up before our sunset boat tour, and it was then that we returned to find the Pro Packs in the exact same place on the neighbor's roof, which was kind of a double-edged sword of relief because, like, it's nice to see them again, but mostly just, like, torture looking at the boxes sitting there with absolutely no recourse whatsoever. Our only throwable snacks at this point remaining were 3D bugles, which I torqued roofward like I was skipping rocks. And somehow that actually did bring the bird back. And though it liked 3D bugles just fine, it only nipped at the box of Ectar before flying off again. All the while, many supportive Italians were reaching out to me on Instagram, smiting their seabirds, and some offering me the phone numbers of electricians to try to break into this person's flat. Another person recommended I try to fly a drone onto it. Amazing idea, so I decided to text this dude, Dario, who was our boat captain for the fast approaching coastal tour, and see if he had a drone or like a really long pole thing for doing boat stuff. He said while drones are illegal in Cinque Terre, he might have something that could help. So we proceeded onto his vessel with a new sense of hope, leaving our film to view the sunset from the roof, alone and confused. Dario showed us this alleged helpful accessory, which was a pretty short pole. We'll call it Dario's scepter. It absolutely was not long enough to reach the deceptively long distance between our balcony and the film. Alas, we enjoyed our saccharine sunset tour, and I finally shot a little bit of what I had to assume were my last rolls of 120 until we left the villages. But as we were circling back, shockingly, Lauren received a WhatsApp text from an Italian number. It was Elma, the woman who she encountered when we tried to enter the adjacent flat. Vibes went nuts. When we got back to shore, we borrowed Dario's scepter, which he said we could return to any bar or house or anyone at all because he knows everybody in Manarola. And we met up with Elma, who led us into the apartment with her puppy, popped open a ladder for us, and Lauren took upon herself the grace of using this pole thing to collect the roof-strewn film.
Here's the Ectar box, no problem. Yeah, this is perfect. Okay, all right.
Oh my God, you got the portrait. Our memories were saved exactly 12 hours from the moment Burb first gripped them in his devilish beak and brought them to his favorite roof. Getting our memories back was really sweet, and the quantity of supportive messages we received made me even more excited to get this journey down on paper and video. It's funny to look at the exposed photos now and think these were in the air, towering above Manarola, and somehow not only made it back down to earth, but also back into our hands. And damn if Kodak film isn't somehow bird-proof, because I had not a single issue on any shot. This is why we shoot film. Also, thank you to Dario and Elma. The fact that sort of two locals helped us in this ridiculous situation that are like disparate people that didn't even really know each other made our connection to this place and this very local story even sweeter. It was a few days later in Perugia where, after exhausting my final frames of any format, I finally ran out of film entirely. I brought a lot of film on this trip, but as I'd been expecting to use the Hasselblad mostly, I packed the wrong ratio of 35 to 120. During this experience in Italy, I did discover how difficult it can be to physically source film in certain regions. It's something I very much take for granted in America. In the US, places like pharmacies, big box stores like Walmart and Target all carry film 7 days a week and are accessible near almost any populated place you can go. In this central region of Italy, I was in a film desert. And as holidays and Sundays kept disparate regional camera stores closed, I ran out of celluloid. And on a sunny Monday en route to Roma, we pulled up to the Umbrian city of Perugia. It was here that we found Water in the Desert, an establishment lush with film and cameras called Foto Fratticoli. where a man named Niba greeted me warmly and immediately started introducing me to some of the gorgeous cameras they have in their collection. As he likely detected my raucous enthusiasm for all of this, he also gave me a history lesson on Fratticoli Photo, which is considered among the first photo studios and shops in all of Italy, its core, established all the way back in 1888. He kindly walked me behind the curtain to show me an insane view of Perugia next to their photo studio, where I also shot this Polaroid of Niba to capture a memory of his kindness. This dude is the man. He also brought me into their photo studio and showed me original glass negatives from the late 1800s and early 1900s, shot by the great-grandfather of the shop's current owner. It was absolutely stunning to touch these original glass negatives that Julio Natalini himself exposed and developed over 100 years ago, and it made me feel deeply connected to the space in a profound way. After rounding up some film inventory for the last stretch of our voyage to Rome, I mentioned to Niba that my Hasselblad had jammed. 6 days earlier in Firenze, my Hasselblad 500cm started seizing in a way that I had never seen before as I was trying to take this picture, which I somehow squeezed into a roll of shutter failures. This was really kind of a blow because, as you can imagine, the Hassi is my A camera. It's the camera I try to use for key shots, so having it go down 2.5 days into our trip was not so Raven at all. For some of the more exciting photographic opportunities in our journey, I wasn't able to use the crown jewel. But I did have the wide-angled Lomo LCA 120, which is a wonderful travel companion and provides a very distinct and striking look. This isn't exactly the look I was planning for in some of the more exciting photo ops at these locations I've always dreamt of visiting, but of course I just had to retool and make the best of it, and I love many of these. 38mm on medium format is so ludicrously wide, and yet still so representative of normal human vision, it really just brings you in. I had another plastic overperformer in my DIY Holga pan, a camera I dismantled with a common handsaw and adhered a 90mm large format lens onto. This enabled me to still have a lot of fun with 120 in spite of losing the Hassi, and I definitely photographed some scenes I would have foregoed or shot differently on the Hassi. And that just gave me a unique flavor all to my own, and knowing I'll be returning, these ancient streets are one of the few things in the world I can trust will be there for when I return. I didn't tell all of this to Nibo while we shot the shit at Foto Fratticoli, but he got the gist of it through body language as I sadly cradled my inert Hassi like it was a feverish baby in need of immediate medical care. He said I may be in luck, and that Foto Fratticoli was equipped with the finest camera repair technician in Perugia. I wasn't sure if that was like saying I'm the best Polaroid 8x10 shooter in Northwest Yonkers, but as you might be able to tell, I do be saying yes to almost anything. And Niba purported this repair tech was so sharp, he could fix the camera within the next couple of hours. Dude wasn't even on site. It was a crazy notion, but I figured what could hurt when in not Rome. This Perugian repair god Luigi arrives at the store moments later, eyeballs the Hassi like a mother checking for ticks. And after a brief exchange where I'm afraid I conveyed absolutely nothing of the Hassi's ailments to a man who spoke no English, he abruptly walked out of the door with the camera without saying another word. We decided to give Luigi space and honor his process, and I very much assumed this 2-hour repair concept was a bunch of bolognese, but we used the time to go shoot a bit at golden hour and soak some bread in sauce. Literally any excuse to stop what I'm doing and eat pasta is good enough for me. This applies to like any time ever. We reconvened at Fratticoli's at sunset, where Luigi sauntered in casually, put a bag down, didn't even make eye contact. I'm like, okay, what the hell happened, Luigi? Jesus. He takes the Hassi out of his bag, which has a piece of plastic taped to the finder. He peels it off, holds it up, and he says, "Not Hasselblad." Luigi extracted a mysterious piece of black plastic he identified as foreign to Hassi's, noting it was jamming the gear communication between the body and the lens. Don't know how it got in there. I could see from the photos on his phone that he had undressed the camera fully to make this discovery. I was so enthusiastic with Luigi that I finally got him to smile. This whole experience of having the Hassi go down and then discovering this rich pocket of Italian photo history and then having this guy named Luigi be able to put my Hassi back into commission, all in Italy, all in one day, in the same week where a bird freaking stole my film, just felt like some sort of miracle sent from the sauce. And even though I was initially a little less compelled to use the Hassi in Roma, where I expected to mostly use my lightest weight kit, it inspired me to make the most out of having it on me for a couple more days in the land of Cacio e Pepe. I'm not a street photographer, but when you're roaming around a city on foot, you become one very quickly. I used to do much more of this when I worked in Manhattan, and I feel like it does naturally suit me. I'm an extremely curious person, and my eyes are scanning everything all the time very quickly, and that's something you pick up when you've shot since you were little. I felt the muscle for it really return, and I've gotten a kick out of a lot of these shots. So many interesting looking people in Italy. One of my favorite people watching destinations for sure. I love people so much, and I love Italians maybe an extra amount, so much so that I married one. So taking as many unobtrusive portraits of city blocks as I could, it felt right to capture life in this time-honored way. Of course, the nature of streets in Italy can take on such grandiose and ancient forms it can feel like not exactly street photography, but almost architectural or even archaeological, with the context of people anchoring images to present day. Or at least present-ish, with the beautiful fashion of these places, where you can make a timeless frame with ease. The graininess and transience of a lot of my Pentax 17 shots can sort of plop you into any time, save for modern vehicles. No streets were more sacred on this journey than those of Urbino, the birthplace of the Fraternelli family, an object of mythology at this point, something I've seen painted by my ancestors, depicted in photographs, but could not conceptualize physically in any deeper way. That changed the moment we approached the city, which we practically took on in a huge wave by way of an immediate sweeping panoramic view that totally took my breath away and my film away. I proceeded to burn tons of frames here. Now that our bird-heisted film had returned, my film inventory was aligning to have Urbino be the place I could just pop freely, exactly what I wanted and planned for. I also shot a few frames on the Stereo Realist, which felt particularly exciting because I knew I could bring those 3D slides home and show my grandpa Lad Fraternelli, which will blow his mind and transport him so viscerally as only stereo photography can. Urbino is outwardly gorgeously ancient, but unlike many cities of its kind, it's not supported purely by tourism. University of Urbino maintains an active buzz in town and keeps a fresh spring of life to the surrounding beauty. It felt particularly special as I could transpose the Fraternelli family of the 1800s onto these streets, while also seeing those same streets brim with modern life and culture. I cannot wait to spend more time here. And that can be said for everywhere we visited on this stunning crash course cruise through the motherland. I need more sauce, and the call is drawing me back to it every day. But luckily, I live in New York, so we have plenty of Italy over here too. So many more moments and scenes and food took my breath away that I couldn't possibly fit into this video, but there's always another meal, and tomato season will return soon enough. Thank you for watching in an instant. Please do that ragu you do and boot that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more shoots, reviews, breakdowns, and all things instant. Ciao, bella. Arrivederci.